back with another live stream, and we are back with another one. Keeping the grind going. Give me a second. I'm gonna quickly plug it in real quick here so that way then the iPad does not die on me this time. So. Alrighty. Let's see here. One second here. So the grind continues, my boys. I think I just did, yeah, okay. I did Instagram. So yeah, welcome back. It's Always Gamer. Welcome back with another live stream. I'm probably repeating myself, my bad. To give you a proper intro. The last was permadeath message as always. You already know. Definitely do check that out as always. Until September 8th. So, we got World Gone Mad Series Season 2. Episode 7 and 8. Alright. ways. So definitely check out Dan Reviews. Link for his YouTube channel is in the description. Show him some love. Tell him Ray sent you there. And of course, if you guys want to check out his World Gone Mad complete series and his complete universe that I'm watching it on, link for the playlist is in the description, so definitely do check him out. Show him some love. I definitely recommend giving this series a try. It's fire. Alright? It's fire. So we got episode 7, Malice. I think that's what it's called. Malice? Or, yeah, I think it's called Malice. Mid-season premiere. And then we got episode 8, The Evil Within. Very, very intriguing episode there, my friend. So, we can take a piss and get a drink here. So yeah, we got more fur content on the way. We got some. Let's see. We got Walking Dead. Well, I think I'm gonna do Walking Dead final season. No Shirt, No Pants continuation. I think I'm gonna continue that. Right after Dan Reviews World Gone Mad series, and then we'll go from there. I think I'll probably do the Walking Dead season 3 rewatch chat stream. I think that's what I'm gonna do. So, yeah, we got lots of fire content. Grind continues. Hit that subscribe if you guys are new. Hit that subscribe if you guys are new. Would appreciate it. Smash the like button. That'd be awesome. 5 likes. We hit 5 likes. We'll continue episodes 9 and episodes 10 of World Gone Mad series game reviews sooner rather than later. So hit that like button. We'll appreciate it. Alright. Trying to think of whether or not I want my leftovers. I definitely don't want to forget about them this time. I got them, them packed down, you know what I mean? And I don't want to waste it, so, it's good food, so. But anyways, so here's episode 7, my life's 30 minutes, but honestly, I'll be real with you, his series has been very good with that, so rock and roll here.
World Gone Mad, Season 2, Episode 7, Malice, the mid-season premiere. We open up with Miles, and he's training on top of a hill. And as we zoom out, we see that winter has come.
Okay. Mr. Miles.
We see him walking through a thin layer of snow. We see him walking through the woods and holding a rifle. And we can see 4 deadheads that are almost frozen stiff. He doesn't waste ammunition, so he goes up to them and slices all their heads off with both of his machetes. It's so cold outside that we hear ice crackling on the deadheads after it's been killed. Then Miles says, "Many evil things that are your strong and bright swords do not stay."
Huh. Okay.
A few hours after the assassination of Lincoln's children and group. We see Lincoln, and he, Tom, and Luke are back at the cabin. Lincoln notices his machete that he gave to Haley before he left for the night prior is laying in the grass and no sign of Haley anywhere.
Okay.
We then see Lincoln digging grave after grave after grave as a few hours go by, and we see several gravestones, but the ones that Lincoln is standing in front of is Ryan's and Macy's.
Oh yeah, that's right. His kids got killed. That's crazy. I remember that. Yeah, I can't imagine. Truly.
The next night, Lincoln, Tom, and Luke are all sitting in the cabin, and Luke says, "The Vipers. They have us all lined up, and they're killing us one by one. If we stay here and wait for them, we'll be next." Tom looks at Luke and says, "We'll leave first thing tomorrow." Lincoln stands up in an angered manner. "Fuck that. Last time we waited, it cost us not only more than just bad luck." Tom says, "Brother, you need to rest. You're not seeing things right, okay?" Lincoln says, "Chris is out there. If you think I'm gonna wait until I wake up with my goddamn throat slit, you're sadly mistaken." And Lincoln walks out of the cabin.
That's honestly fair. I can understand that.
Tom and Luke follow him and get into the truck with him, and as they're about to drive away, Lincoln says to Tom, "Give me your lighter." Tom hesitates a little bit, but hands it over to Lincoln, and then Lincoln walks out in front of the cabin and opens up the lighter and says, "I'm sorry, Haley." And he drops the lighter on the ground, and the cabin lights on fire as we see a heartless-looking Lincoln walking away from the cabin and burning everything from his past that he possibly can. Then they get into the truck and drive away.
Damn, man. That's insane. I just cannot imagine where that came from. Great start to the opening episode, man. Pretty damn good. Pretty damn good.
Time skip to 5 days later. Haley is riding in the back of a truck with her hands tied and a bag on her head. As she hears the men talking, Chris radios his men and says, "We will be approaching the gates in about 10 minutes. Then we cut to later, and Haley feels that the truck has stopped. She then is pulled out of the truck by a Viper, and one of them takes the bag off of her head.
Damn. Poor Haley.
she's being taken into Chris's factory. As she enters, and she sees dead people hanging near the factory entrance.
Yeah, man. It's great. Love the intensity. I like that. It's cool. It's cool. Ah.
Haley looks horrified as she stops walking. The men push her head and force her to keep walking. She then is thrown into a cell.
Yeah. Hopefully she doesn't die.
Over 100 miles away from the cabin.
Okay, so they're getting some crazy distance for sure.
We see Deadhead hands reaching up at the open window in a truck. The Deadhead start making noises and wakes up Lincoln, Tom, and Luke. And Lincoln is still half asleep and says, can someone just take him out? Tom gets his axe and goes out there and takes him out. He then notices a couple dozen more Deadheads up the road, and he says to Lincoln and Luke, "We gotta move."
Huh.
We see the dead down the road walking towards the truck, and we see Lincoln, Tom, and Luke grab their things and flee from the truck and run down the opposite way from where the dead are coming from. But then, we cut to someone watching them from the woods, and he pulls out his knife, and as he watches Lincoln, Tom, and Luke from a distance.
Ooh. Okay. Yeah. Oh.
Back at the factory. Over 50 Vipers are gathering around, and Chris walks up to all of them and says, "Well, look at us. Suburban Estates has been removed from the field of play. There's been bloodshed, there's been suffering, and most of all, we have made our market."
Crazy.
A Viper says, "So what's the plan going forward, boss? How do we continue on?" Chris has a smile on his face, and he says, "Oh, they're still out there."
Yeah.
Lincoln, Tom, and Luke are walking away from the group of reanimated. Meanwhile, Chris is narrating. "Right now, Lincoln probably thinks it's over. I mean, who wouldn't think that? A man that lost a lot of people. He's out for blood. He's gonna let his emotions lead the way. And lead whatever the holy shit is left in his people. But what they don't know is they are walking into a trap. We've killed a lot of Lincoln's fighters, but there's still a few more left that have not been marked yet."
Huh. Oh man.
Meanwhile, Tom grabs his axe and Luke has a knife, and they both take out some of the dead as Lincoln continues walking up ahead and trying to find a place for them to stay for the night, and to try to avoid the dead on their trail that's not far behind them. Tom and Luke clear the roads on their way. But who am I kidding? This has been one of my favorite assassinations I have ever had the pleasure of doing. But there's people out there that are just waiting to be eliminated. I want every single soul of Lincoln's group dead. After that, I want y'all to find this Lincoln for me. Injure him if you have to. Twist the knife if you please. Bring him to me. Getting to see all of his people around him die is exactly what is going to remind him of who he crossed. Now, who are we? The crowd says, the Vipers. Chris asks, what do we do? The crowd says, we silence the danger among us. Chris asks, and what are we sorry for? The crowd says, we are never sorry. And we see the crowd cheering on Chris, as Chris has a big smile on his face.
It's crazy. Insanity. Ooh, really digging.
5 miles out from Dave's military base. We see Sydney and Emma have bags on their heads, and their hands are zip-tied. We then see someone take the bags off of both of their heads, and Sydney and Emma look behind them to see it's Kezia. Sydney says, you guys finally here to put us down like a bunch of animals? Emma looks a bit scared, but Kezia slowly walks up to Sydney and pulls out her knife. She then cuts Sydney and Emma loose, and Sydney just looks confused and asks, you letting us go? Kezia looks at Sydney and says, Dave left with about a dozen of his men on a hunt yesterday. They're not going to be back for a few days. My guard shift is from 12 to 8 in the mornings, but the sun is rising. I need to get back before the sun comes up. Sydney asks, why are you doing this? Kezia says, because I think I owe you, sisters, after all he's put you through. You could have stayed quiet. You could have not told me anything about who he truly is, but you didn't. And I know from the bruises on your face that you aren't making this up. You and your group suffered because of this man. The best thing I can do to not make myself feel the guilt is do something about it. Not just stand by. He killed William and a lot of my friends. And when he gets back, I'm gonna kill him one way or another.
Damn. W. Of course, I don't know how successful it would be, but...
Sydney says, thank you. Kezia starts walking away, and Sydney says, you know, you can come with us. Kezia takes a deep breath and says, I appreciate the offer, but these people need a better life. And I'm the only one that knows who Dave truly is. If I left, Dave would come looking for me. And even if he didn't, if that was all just lies too, I need to be there for his people. I'm the only person that can expose him for who he really is.
I respect that.
Kezia pulls out a rifle and gives it to Sydney and says, here, take it. Sydney says, no, we don't need it, we'll be fine. Kezia says, yes you will. There's a lot of bad people out here. That goes for you too. And we see her give a pistol to Emma, and Kezia says, sorry, didn't have another rifle. Kezia says, good luck to both of you. She gives a small smile to Sydney and Emma, and then Sydney and Emma go their separate ways and venture off, and they're going to go back to the suburban estates.
That's W's for Sydney. Surely.
Back with Lincoln, Tom, and Luke. Luke says, I think we lost them, meaning the herd. Tom says, they can still catch up to us. Lincoln says, we should find a place to stay for the night. Tom says, doesn't look like there's any houses nearby. Lincoln says, we'll figure something out. You know, we had everything. Tom says, stop it. Lincoln says, no, I'm serious. All I wanted was a home. A place for my kids to grow up and live in a place where they didn't have to feel scared, or hungry, or be something that the world would make them. Tom says, we just need to find Haley. Lincoln says, I don't. Tom says, don't say it. Don't even think it. She's alive. And we're not gonna give up on her until we find her alive, because that's what she is.
For real, we'll give up. She's definitely alive. For now.
Lincoln says, I just keep asking myself, all this death, is it gonna stop, or is this just the beginning? Tom says, brother, I know you're hurting, and I can't imagine what you're going through. I'm not trying to understand because I won't. But all I can do for you is help you. Because even though you don't want to hear this, I hate to break it to you, brother, we will die if we're out here too long. If we don't figure this shit out. You hear me? Lincoln says, he took my family. Everything I did when I met you and Billy, all I was doing is so I could maybe, just maybe, get an answer on my family. But now, all I know is when I find Chris, I'm gonna kill that son of a bitch. Real slow. He's the reason why everything I worked for has failed. Do you hear me?
Damn.
Lincoln continues to
Damn.
say, you both listen to me. My kids are dead because of that son of a bitch. These vipers are going to be coming for us next. And with Dave trying to kill us, Tom says, wait. What the fuck did you say? Lincoln says, Tom says, you what? All of a sudden, Luke notices a few vipers watching them in the woods. But when he tries to warn Lincoln,
Oh, shit.
Luke gets shot in the chest, Tom gets shot in the leg, and they all scatter. Lincoln grabs Luke and runs into the other side of the woods, but as they're getting shot at, Tom gets separated from Lincoln, and as Luke and them are trying to get away, we see the main viper yell out, "Spread out!"
God damn it.
Lincoln is running with an injured Luke's arm over his shoulder. About 10 vipers are on their trail, trying to find them. Lincoln in a panic is saying, "Where the hell is Tom?" Luke is losing blood, and the vipers are tracking them. They keep running as they try to get to safety.
Jesus, gravity, bro. What the fuck?
We see about 10 of them. One of them notices Lincoln's footprints, and the main guy says, "We're getting closer." Another viper climbs up the water tower super fast and climbs up the top, and the main viper asks, "You see them?" The viper nods no, and the main viper pulls out a huge knife, and the rest follow and take out their knives because they're all mostly out of ammo.
I guess W's for that.
Then the main viper, who looks to be about 6'5" feet tall, starts marching on and says, "We make them suffer. We destroy and we kill." And we see all of them with their knives out following Lincoln's tracks.
Jesus, gravity. My man Lincoln can't get no break. This poor guy, man. Truly.
Lincoln is still trying to find a safe place away from the vipers. Lincoln says, "I gotta get you somewhere safe." Luke, in pain, says, "Just leave me, Lincoln. Find Tom and go. I'm slowing you down, man. You know it." Lincoln says, No, I'm not letting them get what they want this time. Not this time." Lincoln then sees and hears a fire burning, and Luke says, "I think there's people up there." Lincoln says, "Yeah, not for long." He pulls out Wesley's old shotgun and says, "Stay here." He loads his gun and slowly walks up the hill, up to this campfire that he can see from the hill. As he slowly goes up the hill, we see an RV parked with 4 men sitting around a campfire minding their own business.
Oh, shit. Could be good people, hopefully.
We see them sitting around this campfire and drinking some beers. Viper 1 says, "Those people are gonna fall. And when they do, we'll have ourselves what I call a goddamn victory." The Viper says, "Cheers to that." Another Viper looks off into the woods and sees a shadow. Are they already back from the attack? All the Vipers look over. Out of the woods, Lincoln runs up the hill and shoots all 4 of these men. All of the Vipers fall, and they all have been shot up by Lincoln.
Damn! Badass Lincoln.
But unfortunately, the other 10 Vipers in the woods that have been hunting them hear it, and they all know Lincoln and Luke are close, and they start walking towards that direction.
Oh, shit. Shit. In the RV or something.
The Vipers at the RV are all dead, but there's still one left who looks to be dying. Lincoln walks up to him and points the gun at him and says, "Your friends are dead. Thought you should know, asshole." Lincoln clicks his gun and says, "I guess Chris is gonna be pissed when he sees all of his go-getters are dead." The Viper asks, "Who's Chris?" Lincoln says, "Your leader. What the fuck did you think?" The Viper says, Oh, you mean Chris? Yeah, he's the one in charge of Outpost 3. Lincoln looks scared and looks confused and yells, "If he's not in charge, then who the hell is?" The Viper spits out some blood and says, "Our queen saves us. She protects us. And we will always protect her. If we are such a problem for you, tell me, what are you supposed to be to us?" Lincoln points his gun to his head and says, with a cold look in his eyes, "Your goddamn worst nightmare," and shoots the last Viper in the head.
Oh, shit. Damn, man. Crazy, bro. That's intense, man.
Lincoln then goes back for Luke and gets him inside of the RV and closes the door and says, "It's okay, man. You're gonna be okay, alright?" Lincoln has nothing left but Wesley's revolver. He clicks his gun, points it towards the RV door, and is ready to face the remaining Vipers that are on their way. Back with Sydney and Emma. They go into a gas station to search for food on their way back. Sydney and Emma are taking whatever they can inside the store. Sydney says, "We gotta get back home and warn Lincoln about the military group and whatever these Vipers are all about. We gotta make sure that we're ready for whatever comes at us." Emma says, "They don't seem like bad people." Sydney says, "Maybe. But if Dave's in charge of them, that's enough for me to consider them an enemy." Emma says, "Maybe you're right. I just want to know if there's anyone left out there like us, or if everyone's just a liar now." Sydney says, "Probably the second one." Then she puts the rest of the food in her bag, and then they both start walking out of the store, and then they find a pickup truck outside of the gas station that has about a quarter tank of gas, and Sydney says, "We'll see how close it gets us to home, and we'll both walk the rest of the way." So they get in the truck and drive off.
Obvious for that, I guess. So little did they know, though, that they're going back to nothing, really. It's gonna be a rip. For real.
1 hour later. We see they're out of gas and they need to go to the rest of the way back home at the suburban estates on foot.
Alright.
But as they start walking into the woods and away from the truck, we see a group of Vipers are right behind them and following them, but they don't see that they're behind them yet.
Uh-oh, that's not good. Shit. Where the hell these frickers keep coming from?
Sydney says, "Up ahead." Sydney and Emma run out and they notice an abandoned camp. Sydney says, all right, let's stop for a second. We'll pick up a few things before we continue. Emma says, this looked to have just happened. Sydney asks, what? Emma says, this camp. It was attacked by someone. Look. She points at the bloody tents. Sydney looks around and notices that some of the tents are covered in fresh blood. Sydney says, all right, sis, let's go. Sydney and Emma keep running as far as they can to assure their safety, but as they run further, they stop running, in shock, as they see a massacre of people that have been murdered, and some of them are still slightly moving and trying to speak, but they can't. Sydney and Emma look horrified, and Emma looks up and sees, written on the trees over and over again, liars. Emma starts to have a panic attack. Sydney says, sis, don't worry, it's okay. We're gonna be okay.
Oh.
Out of nowhere, a gunshot goes off, and we see Emma look shocked, and as we see, she got shot in the throat, and Emma falls to her death. As Sydney is in shock of what just happened, she screams out in anger as she watches Emma bleed out and die in her arms.
Oh.
And then Sydney looks over and she sees 10 vipers standing there, and we see it was Chris who killed her, and he looks at Sydney from a distance with a smile and says, one down, many more to go.
Bro, that's fucked up, man. Damn, bro. Wow, that incident. That's crazy. Damn, man, that was crazy, bro.
After the storm has passed, we see Miles praying, and then he radios the Vipers and says, sorry for the delay. Got caught in a storm. It was unavoidable. The person on the walkie says, there will be consequences for your actions, Miles. Miles hesitates a little and says, tell the Queen I will be back soon and that the delay will be worth the wait. All right, gentlemen? The Viper says, all right. Per our Queen, protect yourself, and most of all, be safe.
Huh. Wow. Well, that was episode 7. Damn! That didn't feel like 30 minutes. The trend continues in terms of not feeling like the life. Crazy. I will say, very good. I will give it a 8.8 out of 10. Not a usual rating I give it, but that's what I'm feeling. That's what I'm feeling. 8.8. So 8.8. So very good episode. Very good episode, dude. Insane. You had crazy killings, crazy shocking shots that happened to characters. Crazy, bro. Badass Lincoln. He gets some W's for killing a bunch and escaping with the Luke. Not sure what the heck happened to Tom. Hopefully he's alright. Not really sure though. Damn. Crazy, man. And then Emma. He killed Emma. That's insanity. Wow. Oh, man. That's crazy, bro. That's crazy, man. And my guess is he probably killed the other one too, so he probably killed both of them. That's, bro. Unless they're keeping her alive, I don't know. That's, And of course, City is there and everything. Wow, man. Intense, man. Very good though. Very good, man. I'm just blown away. That's crazy. Huh? Oh. Woo. Okay, well, that was episode 7. We're gonna just get right to it. Episode 8, The Evil Within. If you haven't, hit that like button, I appreciate it. Appreciate the new subscribers, thank you.
World Gone Mad, Season 2, Episode 8, The Evil Within. Luke gets shot in the chest, Tom gets shot in the leg, they all scatter. Lincoln grabs Luke and runs to the other side of the woods, but as they're getting shot at, Tom gets separated from Lincoln and Luke as they're trying to get away. We see the main Viper yells out, "Spread out!" A few hours later, Tom is limping. He stops and sits down and gets a breather. And then when he finally sits down and gives his leg a rest.
Okay. Come on, Tom. Hope you're alright.
Out of nowhere, he gets jumped by a Viper. Tom gets tackled to the ground and starts getting punched over and over again. Then when he can, he headbutts this guy and knocks the Viper down, and then picks up his axe off the ground and swings it and chops his head off.
Damn. W's, Tom. Woo. Damn, man. Crazy, bro. Crazy.
Tom then takes the Viper's pistol and says, "Skinny bastard." He then keeps moving as he limps away and tries to find a safe place.
That's insanity, bro. way to start. Oh. Crazy, bro. Crazy. Who cares? The Rock and keeps me in it.
Blake is traveling the roads. He searches through the cars and finds a few cans of food in the back. SpaghettiOs, he says. Blake then finds a map in the dash. He looks through it and is trying to find his way back home. Blake picks up the walkie and says, "Lincoln, do you copy?" We don't hear a response. "Lincoln, do you copy? If you can hear me, I'll be back soon. With the fighters that you need to win this. That man I talked to you about, he's gonna help us. I just need to talk to him." Then he puts the walkie down and he says, "Ah, fuck it." He then tries to start up the car, but it's out of gas. Blake says, "Oh shit," and goes and pops the trunk and grabs the supplies he can bring and goes off looking for fuel.
No.
Blake is walking and he sees a building up ahead. He starts walking towards it. He sees a few deadheads standing outside of this warehouse. Blake takes out his knife and takes them out. He then bangs on the door to see if there's anything inside. He doesn't hear anything, so he moves in. He slowly walks in. It's very quiet, but uneasy. The floors are so old that they are creaking at every step. He continues to walk and search the place. He then opens the door to another room and kills a deadhead with his knife. He tries to remove the knife from the skull, but the knife is stuck in its head. Blake struggles with it for a bit, and then he finally pulls out the knife, but the blade breaks off and the knife is now useless. And Blake rolls his eyes and says, "You've got to be shitting me."
Huh.
Fuck's sakes. And he sees 3 more deadheads approaching him, so he pulls out his pistol and opens fire. We see Emma's dead body. And Chris starts shooting and runs out of ammo. Sydney manages to get away. Chris turns towards his men and says, "You split off and find this girl. None of you come back empty-handed. You understand me?" One of the men says, "You got it, boss." And then they chase after Sydney, trying to make sure that they get her too.
Oh, Sydney got lucky. Okay, W Sydney. Poor Emma, though. For real.
Sydney is running as fast as she can, still heartbroken, and has tears running down her eyes. She notices 2 vipers chasing after her. She keeps trying to run from them as fast as she can.
Damn. Go, Sydney, go.
About 20 minutes later, Sydney is still running, but she's out of breath and exhausted. And then we see a viper behind a tree. Sydney is running, and she runs past the tree. Then the viper swings at her. She ducks, but falls to the ground. She quickly takes out a knife and stabs the viper in the leg. He screams out in pain. She brutally starts stomping the man's head in, over and over again, until the man's face is covered in blood, and almost all of his teeth have been knocked out.
Huh. Damn. Badass Sydney. Always.
Sydney then grabs the man's pistol and shoots him right in the face and kills him. She sees another viper running towards her, and she quickly shoots him and he goes down. Sydney points the gun to his head, and then the viper says, You crazy fucking bitch. You gonna kill me too now?" She says, No way it's gonna be that easy for you. The Viper says, "Are you gonna kill me? Take me out, bitch. I don't want to keep looking at that fucking angry face of yours all day." Sydney really looks tempted to pull the trigger, still trying to keep it together. But she says, "You're coming with me. Whatever bullshit motives you have, I'm gonna find out. Whatever tricks you people have, where you're from, and anything else I want to know, you're exactly what I'm looking for, bitch." The Viper slowly gets up and Sydney says, "Move." As we see Sydney has a very angry look on her face, but now she's gonna get answers from this prisoner.
Oh, gotta be a Sydney.
Lincoln then goes back for Luke and gets him inside of the RV and closes the door, and he says to Luke, "It's okay, man. You're gonna be okay, alright?" Lincoln has nothing left but Wesley's revolver, and he clicks his gun and he points it towards the RV door and is ready to face the remaining Vipers that are on their way. We see the last few Vipers surround the RV. Lincoln loads his gun and he says to Luke, "Stay here." Lincoln quickly opens up the door and opens fire. He kills 3 of them, and then 2 of them quickly tackle him to the ground. And we see the really tall Viper takes out his knife, and as Lincoln is being held down to the ground and they're ready to finish Lincoln off, the tall Viper says, "We silence you."
Huh. Come on, Luke.
Luke is in pain and hears from outside the RV screaming. Luke panics and says, "Lincoln!" We then hear gunshots from outside of the RV, and Luke looks scared because he doesn't know what just happened.
Shit. Oh, no.
We see Sydney has shown up, and she shoots all the rest of the Vipers and saves Lincoln's life. Lincoln slowly gets up. Holy shit. Sydney puts down the gun, and Lincoln walks up to her and hugs her. Lincoln asks, "Where's Emma?" Sydney starts crying, and Lincoln is still hugging her as she starts breaking down. Lincoln says, "Our home is gone. These people," as he points to the dead Vipers, "they destroyed everything we were trying to build." Sydney says, "Where's the kids?" Lincoln looks horrified and nods to say no. Sydney says, "Oh, no. How did it happen?" Lincoln stops her and says, "I don't want to talk about it." Sydney says, "These assholes did this?" Lincoln looks like he wants to say more, but then Luke, in pain and in a panic, comes out of the RV and says, "Lincoln?" Lincoln says, "It's alright. I'm okay." Sydney walks up to him and asks him if he's okay. Luke says, in a sarcastic manner, "Oh yeah, never been better." And as Sydney and Luke start talking, Lincoln can't help but notice that he sees someone tied to a tree at the bottom of the woods. He looks back at Sydney and says, "Now who in the holy shit is that?"
Huh. Ah.
Sydney then brings out her hostage and she says, "This son of a bitch was part of the group that killed my sister. They came after me. I killed some of them, but I kept this one alive." Luke says, "They are killers, Sydney." Sydney says, "We all know that. But before Emma was killed, she made it a mission to find out everything we needed to know about these people. Now she's gone. We need to know what these people really are. This prick is how we know all of that, little by little. I don't care if you don't agree with this decision. I'm the one that had to watch my sister die and watch her know she was going to die, and I couldn't do anything about it. And because of this prick, we are in the situation we are in now. So don't even come at me and tell me that I made the wrong call."
Damn.
Lincoln looks back at Luke and says, "The woman's right." Luke says, "What?" Why in the fuck would we risk that? Lincoln says, look, about 10 minutes ago I would have agreed with you. Right before I killed that one over there, he told me there was way more of them out there than just a few at a factory. Sidney says, a factory? That's their main base? Lincoln says, no, just one of them. Which means that those couple dozen at the factory isn't just these people. Which tells me this is one hell of a force. Luke says, all right, then find out what we need to know then. Lincoln says to Sidney, put him in the RV. The Viper has his hands tied and looks at Lincoln with an evil-looking smile.
It's pretty good, man.
Lincoln says, wipe that stupid grin off your face, asshole.
Yeah, you sorry bastard.
Sidney puts the prisoner in the back, and she sits Luke down and makes sure he's okay. Then we see Lincoln gets into the driver's seat, Sidney gets in the passenger seat, and Lincoln says, let's start up this thing. Sidney asks, where are we going? Lincoln says, well, first, we're gonna go find Tom, make sure he's okay. If he is. Then we find a safe place for me to talk to this asshole and ask him some questions. Then after a bit of a hard time, Lincoln starts up the RV, and they drive off to go find Tom.
Woo! Hopefully Tom's alright. Or continuing to be alright. We had a crazy situation.
Back with Blake. It's now starting to rain. Blake has decided to stay in this warehouse for the night. He tries to radio Dave again. Dave, I'm on my way back. I have some things I want to discuss with you. No response. Dave, do you copy? Then all of a sudden, Blake hears a truck pulling up outside of the warehouse. Blake looks out the window. Shit, he says. He then tries to stay quiet and hide. He loads his gun in case whoever this is comes in. Blake has a gun aimed at the window. We then see Chris and some Vipers step out of the truck. Chris yells out, "There's someone in there!" We see Blake with his gun inside. Sidney? I believe that's your name, right? I'm pretty sure that's what your dead sister called you anyway, so we'll go with that. Listen, Sidney, I want to talk to you about some things. Are you in there? Don't be shy. We want to help you. You see, your sister had to die. The way the world works now, I'm afraid. Look, I know you're upset with me, but your sister's in a better place, where she is meant to be. And you will be stronger than ever, sister.
Insanity. Insanity, brother. My ass.
Then one of the Vipers speaks up and says, "Forget her, boss. She's already pretty much dead. I say we turn back and let her die." Chris looks back at him and says, "I'm sorry. I'm not quite sure I understand. You want to turn back and leave her here?" He slowly walks up to him. Huh. I've gotta say I'm considering it. Give me your gun. The Viper says, "With pleasure, sir. Here." Chris smiles and asks, "Is it loaded?" The Viper says, "Yes, sir." Chris says, "Good." And he shoots the Viper in the head and kills him. The other Vipers smile, and they see Chris do this, and they look very proud of him. Blake sees this from inside and looks a bit scared, but also looks angry. Chris slowly turns back around towards the warehouse and says, "All right, gentlemen, open up this door and take the girl and slit her throat when you get in there, please." The Vipers are approaching and are opening the door. Blake is ready to fire. Chris looks happy, and then the men enter.
Crazy, bro, crazy.
Out of nowhere, Tom comes out of the woods and starts shooting Vipers from a distance. Chris and the men try to get back to the truck in a hurry, but Tom is still shooting at them. The Vipers are trying to shoot Chris, and then we see Tom reloading. Then Blake decides to come out, and he starts shooting at some of the Vipers at the door. Chris gets in the passenger seat, and only 2 of the other Vipers get back in the truck with him. The other Vipers are all dead. Chris says, "Let's get the hell out of here! Go!" Chris's window gets shot out. He ducks, and then the truck barely gets away with only Chris and 2 other Vipers left, still alive.
Wow. W's Blake and Tom.
Blake slowly walks out and sees all the dead Vipers on the ground. Blake yells out, "Tom?" And we see Tom from a very far distance standing there with the axe, and he says, "You alright, buddy?"
Huh.
Blake says, still in shock, "Yeah. What are you doing here?" Tom walks up to him and says, "Been tracking the Vipers. Been killing them one by one, trying to find, well, I don't even know anymore." Blake asks, "What do you mean?" Tom says, "After you left, we made it back to the cabin we were heading to. Things got ugly. Wesley made an attempt on Lincoln's life. Meanwhile, the Vipers came and killed everyone from the community, including Lincoln's kids." Blake looks horrified, and Tom says, "Afterwards, we tried to find Haley, his wife, but she hadn't been anywhere to be seen. After that, it was just me, Lincoln, and Luke. We've traveled the last few days, and then one night, the Vipers came back. They attacked us on the road in the dead of night, and Lincoln ran off with Luke. I don't know if they made it. And now, here I am." Blake says, "Holy shit." Tom says, "Yeah, kid, holy shit is right." Tom points at the dead Vipers. "Because of these pricks, this is how we live now, in fear."
Damn.
Tom asks, "Where have you been, man? We thought we lost you." Blake says, I've been trying to get back home. I was going to talk to my leader about possibly joining forces with Lincoln. Maybe actually take these people down. And now I see that you guys probably need us more than ever." Tom asks, "You've got people?" Blake says, "Yeah. I mean, I'm not the leader, but I'm going to talk to him about potentially joining forces. But if you want, I can try to get you back to your friends first. Make sure Lincoln's all right." Tom says, "No, I didn't exactly leave things on good terms with Lincoln before we got separated." Tom asks, "What happened? You guys not okay?" Tom says, "No, it's just some things from our past that we have yet to sort out when I find them. I don't really want to talk about it."
Huh. I mean, Blake, not Tom. Error there. Minor error.
Blake says, "All right." Blake laughs and says, "Well, I'm lost." Tom laughs and Blake says, "Yeah, I'm gonna be real with you, man. I can't track for shit. I know I can't be far from the base, but I'm lost as shit." Tom says, "The base outside of the city?" Blake says, "Yeah, you can get to it?" Tom says, "Yeah, my old bar I ran was like a block away from there." Blake says, "Look, I don't want to ask you to do something you may not want to do." Tom says, "No, it's really no problem. I'll talk to the leader. I'll get to know them a bit. If you're going to be introducing a new group of people, it'll be good that you can bring someone from that group to know that they can trust us. Lincoln and I will work out our shit when I get back. And if I think about it, I'm helping him possibly win this thing by going with you." Blake says, "All right, we'll leave first thing. Work for you?" Tom says, "Sounds good to me, kid."
Okay. Interesting.
The next day, Tom and Blake are walking back to the car. Blake says, the car's just up ahead. Shouldn't be that much further. Blake sees some dark clouds. It's gonna rain. Tom says, well, shit. I want to get back to the car soon, then. But as we see them walking, we see someone lurking in the shadows and watching them from a distance.
Ah, shit. That's not good.
It's Chris. He's watching them, walking back to the car, and there are two men with him, and they say, it's gonna rain, boss. We'll come back another time. The other Viper says, I'm with him. We don't need to do this right now. We'll have another chance. Chris whispers, we don't have another chance. Now, I brought you two because you insisted on doing the job. And now, I am simply disappointed. And he takes out his knife and slits one of the guy's throats. The other Viper begs for his life and asks for forgiveness. Forgive me, boss. Please, forgive me. Chris says, it's okay. You did your job. You'll just have to do it from beyond the grave. And he slits the guy's throat as well, and he says, that's 2 minutes of my life I'll never get back. He wipes the blood off his blade, and he starts walking away and says, you stupid fuckers. And continues to follow Tom and Blake from far.
Dumbass, you just killed more of your own men. Chris is an idiot.
They get to the car. Tom says, this one seems alright. Blake says, I think we're ready to go. I can't wait for you to meet him. He can be a bit edgy, though. I'll warn you right now. Tom says in a suspicious manner, edgy? Is there something I should be worried about? Blake says, no, he can just run his mouth a bit. He's got a sense of style, though. Tom starts piecing things together. Tom asks, what's his name? Blake says, Dave.
Ah. Oh.
Tom says with a smirk, all right then. Let's go meet Dave.
Ah. Well, don't tell me. No, that's not you.
As the car drives away, we see someone come out of the woods.
Shut me. Hey. Frick is doing.
We see a Viper walking out of the woods, and they walk onto the road. It's Chris. He starts walking behind the car as Tom and Blake drive away.
Oh, it's crazy, dude. Ah. Yeah. W episode, bro. W episode, man. For real. 8.5. Very good. Actually, I'll give it a 9. Actually, yeah, I'll give it a 9. Actually, I'll give it a 9 because it was, it's intense. Is what it is. It's freaking. It's yeah, it's intense. Truly. The fact that he had killed his own men, his last 2 Vipers that were near him, because they were saying to go back, and he just, that's insanity, man. It just shows you how psycho he is, man. They should have just turned on him. They should have just killed Chris right then and there. And said, oh, he got killed. Yeah, I'll give it a 9 though. Because Lincoln got saved, W's. Interaction between Sydney, Lincoln, was fire. Oh, and Luke, that was awesome. It was really good. I like that how she explained when did that. That was crazy. Blake and Tom, I knew Blake was gonna be like, yeah, Dave. He's like, dude, what are you doing? But he's going with it, so I wonder if like Tom is just like playing along with it, maybe either he's gonna backstab him or maybe he's gonna use this opportunity to kill Dave, and that could be actually possibility, of course, is me speculating. We'll see what happens on the next episode, which will be episode 9 and 10. World Gone Mad. So hope you guys did enjoy it. But yeah, those are the things I liked. What a great cliffhanger you kind of left it off on. Continuing. Yeah, 9 out of 10. Very good. Very, very good. Damn. Your shit's good, man. And it didn't even feel like the length. I'll be real with you. Continuing to impress me on that. So W's. W. Excuse me. So, yeah, that's what I thought. Again, Dan reviews the channel in the description. Check him out, show him some love, as well as his playlist in the description. Check him out. Let me know if you guys get interested in watching his series. I think you guys would definitely like it. It's fire. Anyways, that is going to do it in this one. I'm going to keep the grind going with the content. Like, subscribe, you guys are new, would appreciate it. And I'm end it off here. I'll see you guys in the next one over here. So now, peace. Have a good one, guys. Much love, stay safe.